we didn't have large gangs of slaves working here, but they were often individuals or small numbers of persons who did work for other persons on a rent basis. So we know that glebe lands have been used for schools. We know that glebe lands have been used for housing, and we know that it was supposed to be used for the formerly enslaved. And as I said, even in my day, we did know that there was some housing, cheaper housing that was available, but it's never been transparent. It's never been clear. And so this is an interesting idea that these abolitionists sent this money over, because the friendly societies would have been the most able group to have been able to distribute this, or to be representative of the black formerly enslaved persons, and to be able to distribute this to. But it probably seems that it went through the Anglican Church, or at least that's one story that's up.
Thank you. Do you have any recommendations that you would wish as a takeaway for the consideration of the Commission?
Yes. With the greatest respect, I hope that the Commission will see the importance of the friendly societies. I cite that going beyond the historical importance that the friendly societies have had in being responsible for so much of what has been the groundwork of what is Bermuda. We can talk about the labor unions. The labor unions were founded in the friendly societies. Our school system beyond the primary system. The primary system, our primary system came out of the lodges, came out of the friendly societies. Because when it was thought that schooling was not necessary for free blacks, because it would cause a destabilization of society, blacks were supposed to be persons of secondary importance. They were to be drivers of carts and fishermen and farmers, etc. The professional, the managerial, those type of authoritative positions were reserved for whites. That was the way our society operated, and they definitely were not available to women. The friendly societies, seeing that the government of the day said you only needed to be able to have the rudiments of an education and wanting education for themselves, the communities, again, the point about the friendly societies being anchored in the community and working for the good of the communities. The communities provided schooling in the friendly societies through paid schooling. They paid fees when government gave you a lick and a smattering of an education for free, but told you when to get out and told you, who could do it. So the friendly societies acquired teachers very often from down further south in the Caribbean, persons within their own community who were literate, and persons from North America, wherever we needed them, and were able to provide for education. And education for me was emblematic of all that they did in terms of improving the experience and improving what the members of the society, persons who were formerly enslaved, released with nothing, released with no start, no assets, but who were able to very quickly, by means of being organized and disciplined and brought to a common focus, again, much through the work of the friendly societies, and we have to say the willingness of persons to be disciplined, and so that they were able to acquire real estate, they were able to acquire land, they were able to share things among themselves, and they put up these buildings. And put up these buildings for the community. And many of these buildings still stand. Some of these buildings are are now somewhat in dispute because, and I put dispute in inverted commas, because with the decline of membership, since these buildings and these lands were bequeathed from previous generations to be used for the good of society, for the good of community at large, since the friendly societies have always done this, it is dangerous if government or some party does not recognize the significance of these assets, the value of these assets, and work with those parties that still are around and do something about those that are in limbo, because this is part of what belongs to Bermuda at large. I recently watched a gentleman on television talking about Bermuda's cultural heritage and the opportunities we have for cultural tourism. It's actually a shame that we think, or we're so ignorant of our cultural heritage, that we go to the USA and we talk about the Underground Railroad, and we go to the Smithsonian and go and we see all that there is in the museum there. And Bermuda has a living cultural continuity. I don't want to call it a museum, but we should have our things in our National Museum. We don't. Our cultural artifacts, things that belong to the lodges, are not there. Our holidays, Cup Match, has only recently been recognized as a cultural treasure, as a cultural achievement. I'm concerned about these buildings. I mentioned the one in Somerset, Loyal Irresistible, which is beginning to decay from the last storm. If, again, on West Side Road in Somerset, there is a building. In fact, there's no longer a building. There was a lodge there, just near the junction of West Side Road and Main Road, Somerset, on the water side. There was a shepherd's lodge there. In recent years, the site has been allowed to be overgrown. You can't find out who the owner of the site is. And unfortunately, I'll give you an example. The person who put me onto this was a lady, Mrs. Ross from Somerset, who's a well-known teacher in Somerset. And the land disappeared through a particular realtor, and it was supposed to be sold. I think the story was that the Salvation Army wanted to buy it, and that fell through. But now no one seems to know who owns the land or what's going on with the land. It's now been allowed to be overgrown. Will it disappear? So I think that this commission, in recognizing, in working on this whole idea of providing maybe the beginning of a sort of understanding of persons, parties, aspects of the community that have been neglected, that have been disempowered. They may have had little power, they acquired power, and then by means of the system that existed, our system of selective racial development and progress and access to laws, etc., an organization, a philosophy, I would call it, like the Friendly Societies, has been marginalized, because the Friendly Societies developed their own. They didn't depend on government. They didn't depend on trying to do what was necessarily acceptable to the authorities of the day, but operated and provided for their own, whether it was the Packwood Home or whether it was the own banks, whether it was the own provision of mortgage facilities, they provided their own. This is something that I think is important as the full story of Bermuda. We all need to know that, black and white, young and old. Persons coming to Bermuda from other jurisdictions need to know that. That is part of the story of Bermuda. And as these buildings have disappeared, as I said, and become overgrown, and persons have forgotten about them or not known about them, I fear that unless there is something that this commission and others can do, voices like mine may be voices crying in the wilderness. A few people listening, a few people learning a bit more, and I do have to say that right now it appears to be a good time. We're going through a little excitement. But, you know, I mean, probably the whole panel knows of Ira Phillip. Ira Phillip worked on this and talked about this, whether he's talking about the unions, whether he's talking about the PRP or the political parties and the links to the Friendly Society, etc. Brother Ira is gone, and many people will forget what he said. Joy Wilson Tucker did a lot of work on this. Is still around, but she's now, she's now not as active as she used to be. And a lot of that is being lost. It's being lost because the community does not recognize the importance of it. This commission is being given some importance. People recognize the cries for persons who feel they've been dispossessed, and I've heard people of individual land claims and assets. I'm talking about something that has been stripped of groups of people from neighborhoods, because the lodges are anchored in the neighborhoods. And I'm also talking about something that is being stripped from Bermuda, because the friendly societies are, as I said, the whole thought is stewards of something that belongs to the people at large. So I would hope that the Commission can carry out the necessary investigations, assist those lodges resolving some of these issues, some of these disputes.
Thank you. And before I close off, in terms of the questions I have, you mentioned earlier an example that you're citing for us, which is, and the applicable document which you reference is the indenture that you shared with us. Would you? You don't need to take us through the document, but the document that you place reliance on, would you?
Yes.
Like us to rely on it?
Yes, I would, sir. The purpose of that document was to give a concrete example. This is a document that relates to my particular lodge, Princess Royal Union Lodge. I'm a trustee of that lodge. And this was, it shows how land was acquired. It shows how the, you can see the number of members who would sign for the document, sign for anything to happen. But again, this is something that belonged to the Odd Road, Spring Hill, all that community, all that neighborhood.
This document is 4 pages.
Yes, sir.
It is dated the 1st of January 1943.
Correct.
And it says the parties are Ralph Campbell Dill.
Yes.
And others, the trustees of the Princess Royal Union Lodge, trustees of the Princess Royal Union Lodge, number 135.
Correct, sir.
To William Sterling Purvis.
Yes.
Mortgage of a lot of land in Warwick Parish in the islands of Bermuda, with a
Correct.
lodge building there on erected.
Yes, sir.
So this document be tendered and admitted as exhibit MB 2. Thank you. 2, thank you.
It is entered as Exhibit 2. This document that's marked for shortness, a mortgage of a lot of land in Warwick Parish in the island of Bermuda. It also has, is it the one dated the 1st of January 1943, and I see the name Ralph Campbell Dill and others, and the trustees of the Princess Royale, which union with lodge number 135.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Do we have questions, commissioners? No? No?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Parent Chief?
Good afternoon.
afternoon, sir.
Dr. Bradshaw.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I just want to thank you for your presentation. It's been very informative and actually answered a few questions that I had as a senior member of the society, not the Friendly Society, of the society at large. You mentioned St. Monica's Road
Yes, sir.
and specifically areas of Glebe Road and Glebe lands. You also mentioned the Anglican Church as perhaps being trustees of some of that property. Had you done any research into an event whereby, I guess it would be about some 40 years ago, the Anglican Church actually changed some of the sitting tenants into owners? In actual fact, some of these sitting tenants were sold the property that was previously glebe lands
Yes.
in that specific area. Are you aware of that, sir?
I am aware of that on a personal basis. I actually know some persons who had lived there and then, as you said, were later able to buy the land.
Yes.
So I do know that for a fact. But in terms of any, I have done no research on that, sir.
Well, I would ask the next question. What would that be registered with the parish vestry as well? Would that property be registered? The Pembroke Parish vestry.
I would think that it would, sir, because of the need for taxes that would have been paid on it.
Right. I was looking at very quickly the Friendly Societies Act 1868, and I see that it was revised in 1989. I'm not going to go to it specifically, other than to ask you generally, at this present time, with the Friendly Societies, was there or is there an overarching management group or persons who would oversee all of the lodges in some way?
Yes, sir. There's something called the Bermuda Friendly Societies Association,
Yes.
and in fact, I sit on the executive of that body. And this is a collaborative body, again, because of the autonomy that exists within the different orders. But through an established tradition, the friendly societies in the more distant past were even closer. They needed to be because of the fact that very often the things that they were doing were not looked upon very favorably by the powers that be. So the friendly societies would have an annual conference, which they would get together, and they would determine their events for the year. They would have speeches, they would have that sort of thing. I can tell you, for example, the Friendly Societies a long while ago tried to have a national insurance scheme in Bermuda. And we're talking back in about the 1930s, I believe, because it was between the war years. You know, they talked about trade schools. So they have worked much closer in the past. This Friendly Societies Association was restarted in, I think it's about 1999, maybe 2000. And the basis of that was twofold. One was to try to come together and provide some impetus for some of the lodges that were not as active. And one of the things that was done was to establish the, I need the correct name now, the Bermudian Heritage Museum in St. George's.
Yes, aware of that.
Yes, the Bermudian Heritage Museum is a collaboration that was intended to both promote friendly societies in general in Bermuda, and that was taken in its broadest context, so you will actually see information down there about Freemasons as well. As well as a whole idea of what was the everyday life, what was the lived experience of working class people in Bermuda. And that was set up by that group that came together. It was also recognized that some of the events that were held had also changed. So, for example, Cup Match is an emancipation event. Cup Match is something that's held very dear by the friendly societies. And an interesting thing is, first thing to get clear, no, there was not a cup match in 1834, because sometimes people, when they hear that the friendly societies had an emancipation celebration every year since 1834, they think cup match is the only emancipation event, so they think cup match was since 1834. No. The friendly societies in Bermuda have been unique in that we are the only country that has always held an emancipation event of some sort by the lodges since 1834. Because that was part of a compact that was held. If you can imagine, 1834, you're going to get all these masses of people who are going to be free. And yet you want a stable society. You don't want people to sort of take the attitude, well, you know, I've been enslaved all this time. Why should I bother work? You know, I'm no longer enslaved, but tomorrow I can be told, where you live, you no longer can live. And by the way, the clothes that you got on, they belong to me, the slave master, so take them off or whatever else.
Right. In order to bring the relevance of the friendly societies into a present-day context, what
Yes.
would you suggest would be a process by which the friendly societies can, one, become more relevant again, and have some continuity? Do you have a strategy for that? And how would you describe that system or process?
Yes, I actually have a particular interest in that. One of the things I think is for a person to become aware of the full story and the importance of the story of the friendly societies. I think is important to our identity on a national level and on an individual level, particularly when we talk about disaffected members of society. You know, a lot has to do with self-respect. I think that as we get more this being taken up by the school system, being taken up by the social media, the friendly societies have a responsibility, I believe, of deciding whether they want to be a legacy organization, such as you have organizations in the United States, you know, who get together and fight the Battle of Gettysburg, many years ago. I don't think we want to be doing that, but I think we want to be celebrating how the friendly societies have been the genesis, as I said, of the political parties, of the of the trade union movement. Our whole social system is founded on the friendly societies, whole idea of pensions and sick aid and all the rest of that. There are some needs, I believe, that we need to identify. Someone has suggested to me, for example, that young suicide, I'm talking about persons under the age of 40, is a very impactful occurrence in Bermuda today, depression and suicide. And if you think about I'm a good Samaritan, and if you think about what we have done, what we did in the past, and I know that in the UK, the Good Samaritans organization works specifically with suicides at universities, at college, I should say tertiary education. I don't know to what extent there's a need for something like that in Bermuda. Child care is another one. So I think that there are things that need to be explored with the communities. I think that the friendly societies could do with a little bit of a help, bolstering from the community.
I want to ask specifically, are they registered charities as such?
No.
No.
No. And there's a historical part to that. In actual fact, a few years ago, I actually explored that. The friendly societies have always valued their autonomy, as I said. So, for example, at the time when mortgages were being provided to persons who the bankers and the economic people thought were not suitable risks, the friendly societies would do it. So the friendly societies have always said, we want to be able to go our own path. We don't want to, and I know that when I looked at the needs of charities, the needs for very expensive accounting, and the conditions under which what friendly societies could do, that was one of the reasons why we attempted to go for charitable status, and in the end we withdrew.
There's another question, and be my last one. What would you see as the role of government? And I say more specifically, perhaps the Department of Cultural Affairs, because, and I'll say that I have an interest in that. I was a minister at one time. We did give grants to the St. George's, the Joy Wilson
yes, the
building,
Bermudian Heritage Museum.
Yes. Is that building owned by the Friendly Society?
No, it actually is a large building.
It's a large building.
Yes, it's owned by former mayor of St. George's,
Yes.
and rented to them.
Yes. Well, nevertheless, what would you see now as the role of perhaps government or the Department of Tourism, etc.? What is your vision, immediately to get the friendly societies a better profile, a more relevant position, more focus, so that it can thrive?
Yes.
So that I think that's your objective.
Yes, the objective is to be able to continue to give back to Bermuda, and yes, it allows the continued existence of the friendly societies, but I believe the continued existence is important. And I think it really needs a will, the will to collaborate, the will to recognize. Quick example, Jeremy Darrell, buried in St. Peter's churchyard. Nobody thought anything about it. It's not another black guy who died. But when people decided and recognized that that was a valuable statement about a man who was an enslaved man, but who was able to do something and do something notable, etc. Now they've even built a pathway so handicapped persons can be able to visit. That had to be recognized by the Tourism Association, had to be recognized by the Corporation of St. George's, but it also had to be recognized by historians and his family members who wanted that done.
Well, thank you, sir, for your submission thus far. I've appreciated it, and I'll just leave it open for other members to provide some information or to ask for information.
Yes.
Ms. Ford?
Good afternoon, Dr. Bradshaw.
Good afternoon.
I just have one question. What is the membership today?
It varies. We also have a saying, once a member, always a member. So in my lodge, we probably have about 10 physically able members and declining. I'm the youngest member of my lodge. But we're always on the lookout for new members. The idea is that it's not as quick and easy. It's quick and easy to become a member, but to remain a member, because there are responsibilities. We take our responsibilities very seriously. Both the training, both the idea of giving back to society. It's not like you can join some of the other service organizations where you pay your membership, you have 2 dinners a month or a year or whatever, and you're in like fleeing. Ours is looking for a longer commitment.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Starling.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bradshaw.
Good afternoon, sir.
Always good to see you. I didn't quite get my head around the curious case of Hamilton Parish. Could you revisit that? I didn't understand that fully. You had in your statement that there's a curious case of Hamilton Parish with land being appropriated by a single family, I think?
The land is not appropriated. The management and control of the organization is, I think, somewhat concerning, and that's where I would put it. As I said, the friendly societies have this whole thrust, this whole raison d'etre, which is about empowering the individual and the community. So we did a lot of things to ensure that we didn't build up dynasties. Leadership was rotated, holding of positions, treasurer, all the rest of them were rotated on a regular basis to encourage more people to become empowered, to become aware, to become supported and grow. Now, there has been, over the more recent years, less ability to rotate. Leadership has its perk, but leadership certainly has its cost. Time, effort, and everybody calls the leader when something's wrong. So for various reasons, some organizations have had not the same type of dynamism in rotation in the leadership as has happened. The Hamilton Parish one is an interesting case because that is an example, again, that gives a good story. It's a local friendly society. That's important. The land was given by a white gentleman, and that gives the why I said black lodges in inverted commas, because it's not about black and white when you come to the friendly society. In fact, they don't recognize race or anything like that. Anything that divides membership is not recognized. But it was given, and it was to be a school and to be used as various other things. It is now gone through, first was an older brother who had it for maybe 10, 12 years. Then it went to another brother who had it for another, at least about the same period of time. In fact, the older brother might have been older, might have had it a longer period of time. And now I see it going down to another generation, that younger brothers, one of his children and a child of another one. And they're no longer showing the accountability to the community at large. That is my concern, that we need to assist each other in keeping what is a community asset as being a community asset. You know, that was a school there. You hear people talk about going to Temperance Hall School. That was, you talk to the old people, that's where they met. There was one there and one up by the opposite Slizzle Inn.
Okay, thank you. I think I
Yes.
have a better understanding now of
Yes.
that case. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Shawley. Mrs. Spence?
Good afternoon, Dr. Bradshaw.
good afternoon.
I'm referring to Table 6 of your presentation,
Yes.
and I have a question regarding the status of those properties that you identify as being privately held.
Yes.
Is there a question or concern of those properties now in the hands of privately owned ownership being categorized as historic losses of land as far as the lodges are concerned?
Yes. Yes, there is a question. Because our process doesn't allow land to disappear in private hands without it being totally known to the community. An example, if I take the lodge on Cobbs Hill Road in Warwick, I'm a trustee there, as I said, and that is my home lodge. If it was decided that, it's only 3 members around, as I said, I am the youngest. I'm one of the last 3 standing. It's not about a matter of that goes to my estate or belongs to me. What should happen is that if there were a Grand Lodge still holding in the United States of America, and we know who would have been our Grand Lodge, we would notify the Grand Lodge. We would say we're too small to continue to operate or whatever. We would like to dispose of the assets. The Grand Lodge would decide that those assets should, if there's another lodge of the same order in Bermuda, be given to that lodge. Again, it's the whole theory that you're working for the community, for the good of the community at large. There isn't another friendly society in Bermuda, another Good Samaritans friendly society in Bermuda. We're the last one standing of that order. If we can't give it to another Good Samaritans, it then should be turned over to another friendly society. Alexandrina, Court Street, very active. Loyal Flower of the Day, opposite People's Pharmacy, very active. So we would be told by our Grand Lodge to turn it over to Alexandrina or whatever else. Let's say that for whatever reason we didn't want to turn it over. We're a temperance lodge. We don't get drunk. I smile as I contemplate it, but Oddfellows and a few other lodges are known as having a little bit of "oh, be joyful" at the end of their meetings. Conviviality and sociality. And some of our Samaritans might be a little disturbed about turning that over, that they might just decide we could use that to build a nice new bar or whatever. So you could get a situation where we would not want to turn it over to another order because of some fundamental difference. Then the assets are to be sold and distributed to the good of the poor. It's not the good of the poor. The poor would be included, but to the good and for the benefit of those in the community. What I'm talking about is instances where we've seen that sometimes these lands have disappeared into private hands, but there's been no concomitant, like we're setting up a series of scholarships at so-and-so. We're providing funds for donation to King Edward Hospital for such and such a ward to be used for senior persons or whatever else. None of that sort of thing has happened. The money is gone. It's gone into private hands. There's probably been some sort of exchange. And this would have been something that would have been illegal. It would have been illegal and improper under our Constitution. Mm-hmm. But some manipulation somewhere is taking place.
Okay, so the next question I have was, has anything been done as this general body of members to pursue the history around the lodges that are now in private hands?
We are in the process of doing that. Unfortunately, one of the reasons we've survived so long is because the friendly societies are very obstinate about authority and very collaborative at the same time. So this means that although we have this group and we are getting together and we're talking about doing certain sorts of things and wanting to do this, it's not easy. We're not a fast-moving organization. So,
Is there any information that you have been able to collect that you can share with us at this stage?
I am aware that I am not a legal scholar, and I have realtors and all sorts of persons who have other expertise up there. So I could only share stuff that I would not give names. And I think this is, I don't know if it still is, before I knew it was being broadcast, I understood it was going out live. So I certainly would not, but there are some definite lines of inquiry that could be pursued.
Okay, thank you
That I
very
would say.
much.
Anything, Mr.? Thank you. Anything arising, Council?
Nothing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes. So thank you, Dr. Bradshaw, for your helpful presentation. Very useful. And that's the end of, your evidence for today, testimony.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
to all members of the council for giving me the time and the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Good. I believe that's it for today.
No, Madam Chair. I have another witness to call,
Okay.
Mr. Eswick, in respect of a matter we had earlier this week of the claim descendant in respect of Henry Thompson North, what was known as Pink Beach. The investigator has in terms of some work that he did, there are some documents I wish to have tendered and admitted and to just quickly go through it.
Thank you. So we'll come forward, officer. As soon as this witness leaves, you'll take that seat and then we will hear from you. Could you pass this to Ms. James and see what this happens?
Madam Chair, earlier this week we had heard from Ms. Catherine Harlow
Yes.
by Zoom. She resides in the United Kingdom and she had given evidence regarding a claim, particularly in relation to Pink Beach, and she had spoken of her grandfather. The investigating officer who has shown much industry had been given a document by Ms. Harlow, but he, through his industry, has done quite a bit of work. I'd just like for us to hear the rest of the evidence in relation to this
Very
claim.
well. Thank you. So
Could
we
you-
can swear the witness.
Do you wish to swear on the Bible or to affirm to speak the truth, sir?
I can swear in the Bible.
Okay. You could just take the Bible in your right hand as being provided to you, and you can read the oath, or it could be read to you, sir.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
My name is Hashim Akil Estwick.
You could sit, sir. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to spell your last name for me, please.
Estwick.
Thank you.
No, sir, you're one of the members of the investigation team of the Commission of Inquiry into the Historic Loss of Land in Bermuda, sir?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And in that regard, you have been in contact with the Harlow family regarding a claim of a grandfather, Henry Thompson North, a member of Parliament, and in respect of Pink Beach Club and Cottages.
Yes, I have been.
Thank you. And in that regard, you have been in contact with the Harlow family, and you have done some investigation, having been supplied information by the Harlow family.
I certainly have.
Could you share with us what you have done, sir, and documents, if any, that you have obtained?
At the start of the inquiry, I had several conversations with Ms. Harlow, and from those conversations, I recorded a statement from her, which she tendered over, scanned to me. I think we have it in evidence.
It is.
Yes. And from that statement, I started inquiries into possible land loss. Some of my inquiries led me to the Bermuda Archives, the Land Registry, the newspaper, and other sources. And I was able to glean some information that I believe that produced some forensic path to the concerns of Ms. Harlow.
Thank you. In that regard, you wrote a report with regards to your findings,
Not fully.
but you have a report in terms of the contents of the file, the
Certainly.
places where you visited, and most importantly, the documents you obtained.
Certainly. I can start with going through the documents I have obtained.
Certainly.
Can we bring them up if you have them?
The Harlow. By way of introduction, in the note you have, did you make a note in regards to by way of introduction, the information that you're looking into?
Yes, I certainly have.
Do you remember that introduction word for word, that you could give evidence of it?
Certainly.
Or
Just
you would
try
wish to refresh your memory from the document?
I'm going to refresh my memory first from my documents, so I found it. Okay, my introduction is,
Permission, I'm sorry, the permission for the witness to refresh his memory from the document.
Yes, it's quite
Thank
in
you.
order.
Please go ahead, sir.
based on the statement I obtained, I introduced it that Catherine Harlow is the granddaughter of Henry Thomas North.
Thompson.
Thompson North.
You said
yes.
Thomas.
Yes, Henry Thompson North.
Thank you.
Henry North was a owner of a large parcel of land in the Hamilton and Smith Parish area. Miss Harlow claims Henry North land was acquired during the land redistribution by the Bermuda government in the 1920s. According to her grandfather, he was not in agreement with the sale and was either misled or the property taken from him. This led to his apparent depression until he died in 1957.
And the persons and/or entities that you made contact with?
The persons or entity listed as responsible for the loss are the Bermuda Development Company Limited and Her Majesty Principal Secretary of State for the War Department of Bermuda.
Could you tell me the documents that you wish to place reliance on?
The first document is land required in connection with the Tuckerstown Development Scheme Plan Drawing. Henry Thomas North's name is written on this document on 3 occasions. This document is dated the 16th of October, 1922, and I received this document from the Crown's Land Miscellaneous War Department from the Bermuda Archives. The second document.
Just a minute, please. Yes, you may continue.
Okay, the second document is a conveyance document of land in the parishes of Smith, Hamilton Parish, and St. George's, with reference to Henry Thompson North property on several occasions, and this was dated October the 16th, 1922, where an amount of £1,870 was paid for the property. The third piece of evidence is a plan of land at Juptican Lane and Somersault Road, Hamilton Parish. The engineer for this plan drawn was Robert H. Clark.
Madam Chair, point of information. Within that report, I think it should read, unless this was in the archive, Somersault Road, not Somersault.
You agree, officer?
Correct, I agree.
Yeah, well. So it's a plot of land at Somersault Road. Yes?
Yes.
Cool.
And this referred to land that was owned by Henry Thompson North as well.
Henry?
Thompson North. The fourth document I must refer to is a document in the Supreme Court of Bermuda, probate jurisdiction, in the estate of Ruthven Thompson North, who died the 31st of January 1925. The administration of personal estate, the administrator of this personal estate was Henry Thompson North and Benjamin Quincy Curley Outerbridge. Henry North is also a beneficiary, and he is the father of Henry Thomas North. And this was dated on the 4th of April, 1925.
4th.
4th of April. Fifth document in the Supreme Court of Bermuda probate jurisdiction in the estate of Henry Thompson North, who died the 25th of May 1957. The executor and benefactor, daughter Karen Ann North, and that's dated the 26th of September 1957. The sixth document is...
Just a minute, sir. Could you have a look at that document, sir? You
Yes,
recognize that document?
I do.
Is that the document you just referred to?
This is referring to the probate will of Henry Thompson North that I referred to.
Thank you. May that be tendered and admitted as exhibit.
So is that all of the documents, Council, combined?
No, Madam Chair. That's the
Last one?
no. That is the fourth one mentioned. The other ones, I don't have those. I have
I see.
identified the one that is in my possession.
So, the one that you just spoke to, is that the one? Could you repeat that, officer?
The one that was just tendered is the fourth document, which refers, the fifth document, which refers to Henry Thompson North, died on the 25th of May, 1957.
The documents which you referred to before, you have them there?
I have copies of them. I did send them to your office. Let me
There
see.
seems to have been a
Yeah.
cost. Let us start the very first one, land required in connection with Tuckerstown Development Scheme Plan. You have that copy of that one there?
Yes, I do.
I'd ask that document.
Just let me see. The first one I have is a land acquired in a report of Tuckerstown property from Bermuda Archives, Henry Tucker, and it's dated the 16th of October 1922.
Very well, madam. I'm asking that document be tendered and admitted.
The plans are in two parts. There are two parts to the plan.
Then
So it's
you
two
have
pieces.
Is that the Hamilton Parish?
Yes, that's the Hamilton
And
Parish.
October 16, 1922,
Yes, that is it.
1870 plan. Is that going in as one document? A and
Yes.
B?
It
Yes,
is,
yes,
madam.
madam.
It is, madam.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the same one that's a plot of land at Somersault Road? Is that the same? I was just writing and not numbering.
No, it's not, madam.
Okay,
Okay.
that's it.
So exhibit, entered as exhibit. Exhibit, and it's investigator, your initial H-E? Or is
H.
it a middle initial?
My middle initial is A. First name. Yeah.
So H-A-E, yes?
Yes, it is.
For completeness, I just ask that this be HAE1 for completeness. I would like to, the first one that we had, it's better for completeness that we do it in order, madam. So the very first one you have listed, I'd like that to be HAE1. The second one, we'd go to that now, conveyance document of land.
So the second one, that's not the Somersault Road one?
No, madam.
Could you repeat the second one for me, please, officer?
The second one was conveyance document of land in the parish of Smith, Hamilton Parish, and St. George, which refers to Henry Thompson North.
And is that the probate?
No, it's not.
I
Conveyance of land document. It's a conveyance of land document.
conveyance, okay.
Yes.
And that's the Henry Thompson conveyance, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's 2, council.
You have a copy of that document too?
Exhibit
It's this one.
HAE2. And your third one, please.
I'm craving those.
No, I don't have a copy here with me, but I can provide a copy. It's in the email.
The third one is a plan of land at Judkin Lane and Somersault Road, Hamilton Parish.
Yes.
Have a copy of that document?
Yes, I do.
So tell me, please, counsel, I have written it, I don't know if he has a copy of it, but I have probate jurisdiction in the estate of Ruthven Thompson, North, 4th April 1925. What is that?
He has that, but we haven't. That's the first one we had, but I was asking, as we have been doing, to start at the top. So we have HAE1. The second one is conveyance, document of land. He is indicating that that document he does not have here. He'll provide it. The third one is a plan of land at Judkin Lane and Somersault Road.
Okay,
It's exhibited, also projected on the screen for you now, madam.
so
Don't change it. Don't change it. Don't change it.
3.
No,
Go
don't
ahead,
change it.
please.
Just leave it.
I have to go for this.
In terms of the third one listed, plan of land, I'd ask that that be tender admitted as HAE 3. I know we don't have a 2, but out of the abundance of caution, I didn't want to disrupt the chain.
I'm confused.
If you go by this,
Just put on
first one would be
I'll just draw a line through what I wrote before council and start again.
yeah, if you go by the plan, the first one would be
Is the land required in connection with the Tuckerstown plot?
Madam, what I could do, which is a little easier, the report or the document which the investigator relies on, I'd ask that the tender, the document that is projected on the screen, I was going to do it at the end, that may be a little...
And all the things are in it.
Yes, ma'am.
Very well, thank you. Document.
That could be tendered as HAE2.
Very well, I have that now.
In respect of the third item, on the list, plan of land at Judkin Lane, as it appears on the screen.
Is that the plan of the land at Judkin?
That's HAE3 exhibit, madam.
Thank you. Thank you.
In respect of the fourth item listed on HAE2, it's in the Supreme Court of Bermuda probate jurisdiction. You have that document. Sir?
Yes, I do.
And I'd ask that
E3, before.
Exhibit HEE4. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I think that may be an exhibit. Item number 5. I don't think we got there. Probably you could just continue from there.
Okay, yes, we can definitely continue. The next document in the Supreme Court of Bermuda probate jurisdiction in the estate of Henry Thomas North, died 25th of May, 1957. Executor and the benefactor, daughter Catherine Ann North, and that was the 26th of September, 1957.
You have a copy of that document there?
I certainly do.
So that document be retrieved kindly, and it is tendered and exhibit as HAE5.
Yes. Entered as HAE5.
Continue, sir.
Yes, the next document from the Paris Vestry Clerk of Smith's Parish, acquisition of a parcel of land in Smith's Parish by the Pink Beach Limited from Dorothy Mary Alneck, dated 26th of May, 1963.
Is that it there, sir?
Yes, this is a document.
So I have a tenant exhibit as exhibit HAE6.
So entered.
May continue, sir.
The next document and the final document is a witness statement taken from Catherine Harlow, granddaughter of Henry Thompson North, dated the 1st of October 2020.
October 1st.
Yes, madam.
That's already an exhibit, madam.
Okay.
Yes.
In respect of the research you did, sir, and the documents you obtained, did you arrive at any conclusion in respect of your investigation?
Certainly. The father of Henry Thomas North, owned property in the Hamilton Parish, Smith Parish area since the 18th century, very long. He then bequested some of this property to his son, Henry Thomas North, along with 3 other of his children. This property, the part of the property we're referring to, stayed in the hands of Henry Thomas North until sometime in the late 1920s, when the first document I gave, the plan, when the Development Corporation decided that that was part of the land that they were going to acquire for the Tuckerstown project. So the actual plan drawn stems from Tuckerstown all the way down to Pink Beach area of acquisition of land. In that plan also, it divvied up the part of the land that was owned by Henry Tucker. His name was mentioned a few times on the drawing itself. And then that land, when you move from the 1920s to the 1970s, that land became the ownership of the Pink Beach Club. And on that land, the Pink Beach Club owned 11 acres of land, and 4 of those acres seem to have came directly from Thomas North. The plans also from the 1920s, the plans from the 1970s, the plans in between that all merge into one document indicating who owned the land and where it ended up at the end of the day. So the conclusion is that some of the land was owned by Mr. North, and it eventually ended up in the hands of private developers.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
Any questions, commissioners? None? Mrs. Milligan White, any questions? You don't have any? Mr. Chair?
I'm about to call you Chief Inspector Estwick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Investigator Estwick.
Yes.
Were you able to find any specific evidence that there's any deeds or any type of conveyances specifically as documentary evidence that the land was transferred as you just described? And could you go over that one more time?
Okay, so there's evidence that I've collected indicated that Ruthven North, who's the father of Thomas North, owned a sizable amount of property, which he then gave to bequeathed to his children. And then when his son, who is Thomas North, died, he had less acres to bequeath to someone else. So those are evidence in the documents. There's also evidence in the documents to indicate that there were a number of other persons affected whose name have not been called, but they're also on the plan drawings to indicate that their property also was acquired as well. And it's ended up in the hands of private persons.
All right, so you're saying that the parcels of land that we're talking about that were taken from North
Yes.
under the Expropriation Act 1920, together with other landowners, comprised the Pink Beach property in the end?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So Henry Love Tucker's land was about 4 acres that
Yes.
has been acquired. And the drawing that I sent in relation to Pink Beach is 11 acres. And the Henry North property sits in the center, like in the middle of this 11 acres of land. It makes up a great portion, a good, meaning the main portion of Pink Beach. That's what it looks like.
And the other persons to whom some of this land, having been expropriated, ended up in ownership over them, those names are known to you?
Yes, some of them are known to me. It will require a lot more research than I have conducted into each individual. Some of them have passed away, and probably all of them have passed away. But some of their family members are not necessarily interested in what's going on now. So it will require some more forensic, in-depth investigation.
But you were convinced that the land that lie in the middle, owned by Henry Thomas North, was actually expropriated during the 1920 expropriation of land in Tucker's Town?
Correct.
And did any of that land specifically end up in private ownership hands?
Yes, it did.
It did.
Yes.
And then converted, of course, to Pink Beach property.
It certainly did.
Right. Thank you.
Any questions? Any further questions? Go ahead, please, Mr. Starling.
Good afternoon, Chief Inspector, Investigator Estwick. Just piggybacking what my fellow commissioner asked. So it was appropriated by Bermuda Development Company, or the Tuckerstown Development, in the 1920s. And at some point it ended up in the hands of Dorothy Aunot, who later sold it to Pink Beach.
Yes.
But
correct.
we don't know at what point it left the ownership of the Bermuda Development Company. We don't know how Ms. Aunot got the property.
Precisely.
Okay.
I have not been able to secure that information, but I believe that with some more digging, we might be able to, but the land registrar, some of the documents are dated and not in the best conditions, but it would require some more digging to find some more information that could help, answer some of the questions we.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Spence? Any questions? Mr. Stubble? No question. Anything arise in council?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Chief Inspector.
Thank you.
Again, Chief Inspector Eswick is one of the retired officer who came and volunteered his services to help us get along with all the investigations
Thank
that
you.
we have. So thank you, Chief Inspector.
Thank you.
Those are the matters for today.
For today, very well. So that means that we've concluded all the matters for today. Just one moment, please. Commissioner Binns would like to ask you.
Dr. Bradshaw actually referred to a document prepared by Rod Etright Sterling regarding the vestries and their role in, societal matters as the lodges were involved in the community. And I think that's important to get that document into evidence because the vestries, as we see in this instance, is repeatedly brought up in submissions, and we need to know sort of the background or what they were able to, their role in all of this.
Could you remind me of the name of the document?
It was in his presentation where he had the table, and I don't remember the.
Very well, I will.
I don't have it.
That was on paragraph 6.
No, we didn't have it.
So that is it then, Council?
It is, I will.
Ms. Binns' matter we can deal with. If it's still outstanding, we can deal with it.
Thank you.
Oops, in camera.
Thank you. I will make contact with him to ascertain if he has a copy or where we could obtain a copy.
Thank you.